In the 14th century, the Dialogue of St Catherine of Sienna was dictated by the saint to her secretaries during her ecstasies, in which God the Father gave her many insights into the faith and Scripture. In this episode, we listen to God the Father explaining to St Catherine about how Jesus, as the bridge to heaven, has 3 steps, which signifies the 3 states of the soul, and how, being lifted up on the cross, Jesus draws all to Him, the bridge to heaven. In Dialogue 2.10, under the subject of discretion, we read, "I will now explain to you the nature of this bridge. I have told you, my daughter, that the bridge reaches from heaven to earth through the union which I have made with man, whom I formed out of the clay of the earth. Now learn that this bridge, my only begotten Son, has 3 steps, of which 2 were made with the wood of the most holy cross, and the 3rd still retains the great bitterness he tasted when he was given gall and vinegar to drink. In these 3 steps you will recognize 3 states of the soul, which I will explain to you. The feet of the soul, signifying its affection, are the first step of the bridge, for the feet carry the body as the affection carries the soul. These pierced feet are the step by which you can arrive at His side, which is the 2nd step. The 2nd step manifests to you the secret of His heart, because the soul, rising on the steps of its affection, begins to taste the love of His heart. Gazing into that open heart of my Son, with the eye of the intellect, the soul finds it consumed with inexpressible love. I say consumed because He does not love you for His own profit. Indeed, you can be of no profit to Him, for He is one and the same thing with me. Then the soul is filled with love, seeing itself so much loved. Having passed the 2nd step, the soul reaches out to the 3rd, that is, to the mouth, where it finds peace from the terrible war it has been waging with its sin. On the 1st step, then, lifting its feet from the affections of the earth, the soul strips itself of vice. On the 2nd, it fills itself with love and virtue, and on the 3rd, it tastes peace. So the bridge has 3 steps, in order that, climbing past the 1st and the 2nd, you may reach the last, which is lifted on high. For that reason, the water, running beneath, may not touch it, for in my Son there was no poison of sin. This bridge is lifted on high, and yet, at the same time, joined to the earth. Do you know when it was lifted on high? When my Son was lifted up on the wood of the most holy cross, the divine nature remaining joined to the lowliness of the earth of your humanity. This is why I said to you that, being lifted on high, He was not lifted out of the earth. For the divine nature is united and kneaded into one thing with it. And there was no one who could go on the bridge until it had been lifted on high. Therefore, He said, "If I am lifted on high, I will draw all things to me." My eternal goodness saw that in no other way could you be drawn to me. So I sent him in order that he should be lifted on high on the wood of the cross. Thus, the cross was made into an anvil on which my Son, born of human generation, should be remade, in order to free you from death and restore you to the life of grace. He drew everything to himself by this means, namely, by showing the inexpressible love with which I love you, since the heart of man is always attracted by love. Greater love I could not show you than to lay down my life for you. It was necessary then for my Son to be treated in this way by love, in order that ignorant man should be unable to resist being drawn to me. In very truth, then, my Son said that being lifted on high, he would draw all things to himself, and this is to be understood in two ways. Firstly, when the heart of man is drawn by the affection of love, it is drawn together with all the powers of his soul, that is, with the memory, the intellect, and the will. Now, when these three powers are harmoniously joined together in my name, all the other operations that man performs, whether in deed or thought, are pleasing and joined together by the effect of love. That is the result of love being lifted on high, following the sorrowful, crucified one. So my truth said well, if I am lifted on high, meaning that if the heart and the powers of the soul are drawn to him, all one's actions are also drawn to him. Secondly, everything has been created for the service of mankind, to serve the necessities of rational creatures. The rational creature has not been made for things, but for me, in order to serve me with all his heart and with all his affection. Since man is drawn, everything else is drawn with him, because everything else has been made for him. It was therefore necessary for the bridge to be lifted on high, and to have steps, in order that it might be climbed more easily.